We are here today at Killernie Farm in West Fife to talk to Yvonne Jones about how she's utilising EID and technology to improve flock efficiency and overall farm efficiency. Hello Yvonne, can you tell us a bit about the place?
Yes, this is an upland farm. It's 180 acres that we farm, and it's quite a dry area. It's only 700 millimetres rainfall, so we do find the shallow soils dry out quite a bit. We go up to 320 metres above sea level, which is almost to the top of Salin Hill. And I have 350 ewe shedding sheep. We came originally 5 years ago with Scottish blackface ewes, but I've chosen to use Exlanner and Easy Care tups, and now it's predominantly wool shedding.
Great. I think there'll be a few people watching wondering why wool shedders?
Well, I found I had constant problems with the blackie wool. Fly strike was a problem in the summer, and cowping, and every time we came to clip it was raining. So I decided it was time to originally try and get a shedding blackie, and then I looked around and the Easy Care seemed to fit the bill.
Absolutely, I think there's definitely opportunities there to reduce costs. You mentioned before that you're performance recording the flock as well. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I've been performance recording with Cygnet for 20 years, and basically we have to weigh throughout the year. We weigh the lambs at birth and 8 weeks, 16 weeks and 20 weeks, and then when the gimmers join the flock, and that gives us the performance of either the ewe or the lamb, and from that they can tell us EBVs of each member of the flock.
Yeah, plenty of opportunity there. I think we're going to now have a look at some of the EID and technology in action.
Great.
So we're tagging at birth for two reasons. One is to assign parentage, so assign the lamb to its mother, and the other being to record information on that lamb. Yvonne, what's your lambing protocol?
We lamb inside here because of predation and exposure. And firstly, I catch the lamb. It needs a tag to identify that lamb, and also I can then identify its mother. And we know the sire because we single sire mate at tupping time, so the mob of ewes goes to individual tups and we know which sire is the lamb's dad. Then record the birth weight and any other traits. It might be lambing assistance that's required, or fat teats on a ewe, so suckling assistance, anything like that is recorded and noted down, and then later on you can cull for those if necessary.
Great. Why do you think it's so important to record things like lamb ease and lamb vigour?
Well, I think it's certainly you need get up and go wherever they lamb, whether they lamb outside or in. You've got to get them suckling within those first few hours to get enough colostrum. And so really, if they don't do that, they're at a greater chance of dying.
Yeah,
in
no,
life.
absolutely. Huge impact on survival, but also on the labour required at lambing time. What about lamb birth weights? Why do you kind of go to the effort of recording that?
Lamb birth weights, I feel, are very important because there's such a range. You can get a big single of 8 kilos, perhaps a hog twin of 2.5 kilograms. And when you're comparing them later on at weaning time or 8-week weights, you're not really comparing like for like if you haven't got some kind of starting point. So I would perhaps not weigh everybody, take an average as they go and weigh the very large or the very small if you're short of time, but that still gives you a starting point.
Yeah, it's going to hugely improve the accuracy of your daily life weight gain analysis later on. There's also that impact on lambing ease as well, so trying to avoid those exceedingly heavy lambs, but also for lamb survival as well, trying to avoid exceedingly light lambs as well, so sort of lambs under 3 kilos, I suppose. We have a look at how you weigh a lamb at birth.
Yes, well, I use my Scion for collecting the data, so depending on what software you have, they all have birthing software, so we would put in the ewe's tag number. I can actually enter that by manually, since we don't have the ewe at hand. I'll need that in a minute. And then it asks for which sire it is. Well, I've noted that, so I can just say which sire it is. It asks for birth date and whether I have assisted the birth or not. So generally no assistance.
Is that a yes or no, or a scoring system?
It's a scoring system on how much assistance you've given, from no assistance to a caesarean by the vet, and a few things in between. Then it asks about the lamb. Is the lamb okay? Yes, otherwise you can actually note whether it's stillborn or whether it's died. And then we have the tag, so I would tag the lamb and read the ear tag. It asks whether it's a ram, a ewe or a wether, and at this point I like to castrate them if I'm going to, so that I can put it down as a wether lamb rather than say it's going to be a wether and then find it might not be. So I like to put that in, and the breed, which goes in as an easy care. Then we weigh the lamb. Inside I use a bucket. I found it's easiest. I've got two or three different types of scales.
This is just a luggage scale then?
That's a luggage scale.
We've got a slightly more manual option
fishing scale, yep. Tear the bucket to make sure that it starts at 0. Place the lamb in the bucket, preferably on its bottom, not on its feet, because you'll find it just jumps out. And take the weight, and that's the weight you write in on the scion. And then if you're not actually weighing everyone, you'll probably find, having weighed 10 or 12, there's a sort of average of 4 kilos for your singles, maybe 3 for twins or whatever. And you can put the average in and just weigh the heavier or lighter ones.
The whole thing a bit.
And then it asks whether there's a second lamb and a third lamb, and you input that information too.
Great,
so.
Simple. You also used the lamb outside. Was there anything you changed there in terms of weighing lambs or identifying ewes?
Yes, from the identification of ewes, I like to do that ahead of lambing. So if it's a short fleeced ewe, you can easily write a big number on its side. With the blackies, I found that in the wind, I couldn't actually read that number. So I found collars with great big numbers. They were just dog collars with numbers I put on. And I took a pair of binoculars with me. If they're a fairly peaceful sheep, then you might just get away with big flag tags. But you want something to identify the ewe. You have to catch the lamb, and then I wouldn't take a bucket around with me. I actually cut off a feed bag and folded that up, and then hang that, just make 2 holes on it and hang that on the scales instead.
Okay, brilliant. So Yvonne, what are the key times for weighing lambs?
For Signet performance recording, I would weigh them at birth and at 8 weeks, 16 weeks and 20 weeks. And if I'm weighing them commercially, I would do it at birth, at weaning time, presuming you're weaning at 3 or 4 months, if not about that time, and then probably monthly thereafter. And that gives us an indication really of how they're growing.
Yeah, no, great. So we've got weights at a certain time point, but also kind of growth rates to influence management. But what's the importance of the sort of earlier weights, say 8 weeks for Signet or 12 weeks if you're doing more commercially to look at your ewe side of things?
8 weeks is a good one because that has it's mainly been the lamb suckling on the ewe, so that gives us an indication of the maternal side of the ewe and how well she milks. So from thereafter, the ewe is generally eating grass, and that's more the genetics of the lamb and how well that does. So when you're weighing at weaning or later on, you're certainly looking at the genetics and how well the lamb performs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's the ewe side of things that's going to drive the whole flock performance, isn't it? It'll be really important that we can look at not just the late growth rate and looking for terminal traits, but also that ability to harness this information to select the ewes that are the most efficient ewes. Milking ability, the ability to grow a lamb out to 8 weeks. So as well as weighing lambs, how are you using weights with other classes of stock, Yvonne?
I weigh the ewe hogs in the autumn because I put some of them to the top, and I want them to be at least 60% of their adult weight. So for a 60 kilo lamb, that will be 36 kilos. And I also weigh the ewes at tupping time and at weaning time. And I do that partly because it's an opportunity to take off the very heavy ewes and the very light ones and try and get a more uniform flock. It helps if you're drenching them or anything where you need to know the weight. And it's a good idea when you want to look at ewe efficiency, because taking a tupping weight and then seeing how much kilogram of lamb she has weaned at weaning time gives you an idea of weight and efficiency of that ewe.
Absolutely. When are you weaning?
I wean at 90 days or an average of 90 days.
Yep.
So we lamb April, May, so it tends to be the end of July or very early August.
That's great. And do you use just the basic data that comes through the raw data, or do you adjust it as well?
We actually have got some great software that always adjusts all the weights to a 90-day weight, which is great for comparing lambs. Some look big, but it might just be that they're nearer 100 days than 80 days of the smaller ones. So if you can adjust everything to a 90-day weight, it's a great way of
I mean, absolutely. You could have younger lambs that might get penalised, or the ewe gets penalised, but it's only because the lamb is in fact has missed out on 2 weeks of growth, for example, compared to one of his peers. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And what's the ultimate target then?
The ultimate target for my 60-kilo ewe is to wean 2 30-kilo lambs and have 100% efficiency off grass. But I have a bit of a way to go yet.
That's the dream. So what's your weighing setup here?
I've got quite a basic system. I've got a weigh crate here with a basic weigh head that just shows the weight, the sheep's EID number, and how many grams a day she's grown since last weighing. So in this case, 150 grams. She's 36 kilogram ewe. To read the EID tags, it's linked by Bluetooth to a wand in this case. It can be the scion, and I just read the tag, record it, and let the sheep out. So it's actually really quick. When the sheep are running through, you can do it very quickly.
Certainly can. And this is you've got a draft option here.
I've got a three-way draft option, and that's great for example, taking off the top ones you want to sell, or 40 kilogram one way and 30 kilo the other for when you're drenching. There are lots of uses actually. Yeah, shedding is very useful. So this lamb, 32 kilos, has grown 200 grams a day.
So you're also recording body condition score as well. Why do you think it's so important, and what are the key time points that you record it?
I certainly record the ewe body condition score because it's important to try and keep their condition good throughout, especially leading up to tupping, where you'll get more lambs for a ewe that's in better body condition, and for lambing she'll produce more milk, and it gives the lamb a good start and better colostrum as well. How do
you actually record it?
I record it with the scion. It's very quick and easy. It's just a case of reading the ewe's ear tag, checking her condition score and entering it, saving it, and then you're all ready to move on and take the next ewe ear tag and enter her condition score.
Quick and easy. And
quick and easy.
Once you've got all that information, you've got the data to hand, how do you then use that to influence your management?
Well, at weaning, I would shed off all the leaner ewes, and they'll go on to better grass to improve their condition score before tupping. And if by tupping they're still lean, I would cull them rather than try and tup them and take them through the winter.
Yeah.
At scanning, in fact, I would use it for checking the condition of ewes, even though I'll be putting them into groups depending on whether they're twins or triplets for extra feeding. Any one lean will probably go up a group to get additional feeding. And then at lambing, I check it primarily to actually drench the leaner ewes, and because I don't drench the whole flock at once, but also just to check that they're going on to adequate nutrition. Yeah,
that's great. So you're optimising nutrition, optimising performance, but also through recording it, you've got ability as well to select genetically from more robust ewes as well. So
definitely.
Very handy tool to use.
Yes, I don't want to see that a ewe is milking off her back and she's got some great lambs, but at the end of the day she's got very little fat, because then you've got to get her back into condition to put her back in lamb again.
Yeah, it's not just about the 1 year, it's the next year as well, and the impact there.
Yes.
So we've recorded weights throughout the year. We've also recorded individual animal information on the scion, Yvonne. How do you then process that data and analyse it for use on farm?
Well, some of the data is for Signet, so that goes away to Signet and they produce EBVs from it. And some of the data I use through a farm management software system, and I use that just to analyse what's going on in the flock. So for example, this shows the weights at weaning. It's a weighing point analysis, and I wean at 90 days. So it shows all the weights as if the lambs were 90 days old. So we've got the ear tag number on the left, the breed, date of birth, what sex the lamb is, its sire, and its the date it was weighed, and then its weight as if it was adjusted to 90 days, and the daily live weight gain too. And I use that particularly at weaning and later on in the year for replacements, because I'm trying to get replacements that have a daily live weight gain of at least 200 grams. And also for trends such as sire trends, there might be one sire that's producing heavier weight lambs or faster growing lambs, and there might be one that's not performing so well.
Yeah, so there's huge opportunity there, isn't it, to gain more knowledge of the flock?
Definitely.
Through the recording. We've also got a sheet here, which is further analysis of, this is ewe trends, or ewe information. What have we got here?
Yeah, so this is one I actually made from all the information I'd put in, which includes shedding scores, because for me wool shedding is very important, and it includes the indexes from Signet, and it's for me to select my replacements for the following year. So I've listed, this is just one page of 10, but I've listed all the ear tags and the breed, their dates of birth, their sires and their dams, then their indexes and wool shedding scores. And from that I can decide what my main priorities are. Am I going to keep high index sheep if they don't shed? And you can also see I have notes, I make notes as I see the lambs during the year and whether I'll keep them.
Great, so it's a 5-point score for shedding then?
Yes, 5 point. 5 is they've shed completely, and 1 is they've shed, they haven't shed at all.
Do you have a cut-off that you look to achieve?
I keep all the 4s and 5s, so all the higher shedding to begin with. I only keep the 1s if they've got a really good index, but they're going to be going to an easy care tup anyway, so hopefully the next generation will be the wool shedder.
And there's certainly a lot of value in looking at these kind of previous comments as well, things you might forget about if you didn't record them. And so the index score, larger numbers better, but I see you've also colour-coded it as well.
Yes, yeah, it is. That's so that you've got a visual thing. Green is go basically on my system, yep. So green is the high index, but you can use any colour you like. That's just my own way of coding. And by doing that, this was actually done on an Excel spreadsheet. It just means that you can very easily sort things and see what you want to keep.
Yep, it's much easier. So here we've got an example of the estimated breeding values, also known as EBVs, that we've got back from Signet. This is using Yvonne's Killernie stock tops as an example. What we can see is it gives Signet attempts to separate the environmental effect from the genetic effect, also taking into account not just the animal itself, but also its offspring and its relatives, and to give an overall genetic score for each trait. And what we can see here, we work from left to right. We can see the flock number, the animal's individual tag, its sex, date of birth, and also its birth and rearing types as well. But then we get onto the EBVs. So we've got 8-week weight. So that comes back to when Yvonne records the 8-week weight. It derives 2 traits from that. It takes the direct growth rate potential of that lamb to 8 weeks. So that's the 8-week weight. And it also takes the maternal influence, so the influence of the ewe's mothering ability. And that's the maternal ability. Maternal ability is also a weight trait as well. So it's expressed in kilograms, so a ewe's ability to wean heavier lambs because of her maternal ability. We've also got scan weight as well. And at scanning, many performance recorded flocks will also record muscle depth and fat depth, which is ultrasound scanning along the 5th lumbar vertebrae. And if they're more advanced, they may well do a bit of CT scanning as well, which gives you even a more in-depth picture of the muscle and the fat in the carcass. There's also a couple of other traits, because we know that selection for growth rate can also inadvertently lead to selection for high mature size. So there is a mature size EBV there as well for selection. And we've also got a litter size trait, so looking for ewes with higher prolificacy, or in this case, tups that would produce female offspring that would produce larger litters. And finally, to try and give a kind of overall merit of worth, is the index scores, which combine many of these traits, balance sort of economic importance, to allow you to select on that. And each year, Signet will produce a breed benchmark as well for the traits and for the breed, and it allows you to compare not just within flock, but also everyone within that breed and see where that ram would stack. So for example, if we take the first ram here, he's got a litter size of 0.22, and if we look down the breed benchmark, that would put him in the top 1% of the breed for prolificacy and the ability to produce female offspring that produce a lot of lambs. Yvonne, where do you stand on this? What's your sort of key priorities in selection?
Well, I keep an eye on the index, that's the main one, and that tells me the performance as a whole of the top. And then maternal ability is very important here. So look at maternal ability with the 8-week weight in mind. Also the mature size, because I don't want too large a sheep at the end of the day and need to keep it to around 60 or 62 kilos. And finally, I'd use the scan weight because at the end of the day, I want to grow my lambs off grass as fast as possible. So they've got to be looked after well by the ewe, but once they're weaned, I want them to grow and be off the farm unless I keep them as replacements.
Yep, absolutely. Selecting for growth rates, but also because you're selecting your own female replacements, you're putting a heavy selection on the maternal ability.
I am.
Yep.
Yes.
We have seen today how EID and technology can be used to make significant improvements in breeding decisions, but also management and streamlining that management for improved labour efficiency as well. We'd like to say a big thank you to Yvonne for having us today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And if you'd like to get any more information on EID, please visit the Farm Advisory Service website, or if you want to speak to someone, we've also got an advice line as well.